Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Mental Health Impact Series, Season 2, Episode 6. My name is Aanchal, the CEO and founder of Reach Out Together Foundation. We're back here today on a Friday to continue the discussion on mental health, break cultural stigma on mental illness, and to encourage outreach for professional help and other supports. Today on our show, we have the one and only Cymone Lashae from Connecticut to talk about mental health and help us break the norm to seek help for healing, for recovery. May I please welcome Simone on our show. Thank you so much for being here today on a Friday, Simone.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. We really appreciate your time shared here to continue this discussion. I wanted to let the audience know I actually came across your profile for the very first time through this app called Clubhouse, where I saw you relentlessly raising awareness. And I'm like, more people need to know about what you do, why you do it. And so yeah, I'm just super excited that you were able to take the time and come on our show to continue the discussion.
Absolutely. This is such important work. So I love everything that you guys are doing. And I'm so excited to be here to work with you guys going forward. Clubhouse has been an amazing space. I see that you guys are up there too. So we're just, starting to normalize the conversation. That's exciting within itself.
Much needed work, Simone. Hats off to you. We're here to support you and encourage these discussions. They're so important. Without any further ado, let's get started. I'd love the audience to know a little bit more about yourself. So could you share a bit about your professional background and what brought you here today?
Absolutely. So yes, my name is Cymone Lashae. I am 29 years old. I was born and raised predominantly in Connecticut in the States. And so that has been great. But I love my international people. But that's something about me. That's a way that I take care of myself is traveling. And also, just telling my story has been a big part in my healing journey, I believe, as well. So yes, 10 years ago, yes, it'll be 10 years in October, I had attempted suicide and ended up in the hospital. But I say that was my breakthrough moment when I was able to get diagnosed, whether that have been, I got diagnosed, it was a laundry list of diagnoses, borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder, PTSD, and a few other things that came behind that. But it was the time where I was able to put a label to the feelings that I had been feeling for so long. And so as tough as the time it was, getting past it and getting to where I am now has been such a fulfilling journey.
And when was this? When was the official diagnosis, Simone?
October of 2011. So at that time I was 20.
Wow. And at that time you were in Connecticut?
At that time I was actually in Oklahoma. I was in Oklahoma. I had went through a period of transition in high school, and that I dealt with depression as an adolescent. My parents had a hard time trying to support me and, manage because they didn't know what was going on. There was no label. So with that, I was moved from Connecticut to Oklahoma to live with new guardians. So I was in Oklahoma for about 4 years. And then when I ended up in the hospitals, when I ended up moving back out of Oklahoma, it's a long story, but yeah. So when the crisis happened, I was living in Oklahoma at the time.
And did you have support around you during those times?
Not really. Like I had my guardians, my godparents there, but that was pretty much, I had friends, but I wasn't really too close with anybody at the time. I had lost my best friends, my two best friends, they went missing at the same time. So it was just me. And that's kind of what threw me over the edge. Was not being able to find them. I was living with an ex-boyfriend at the time. It was just a messy situation. So no, I really didn't have a lot of support at that time.
Oh, Simone, I just want to acknowledge you for being so real here. And I feel like we have a lot that we can uncover for people at that time when this is in real time when you're experiencing all these challenges. Sometimes it just feels like life's just throwing challenges at
Yeah.
you. And then you had your official diagnosis, and you said it was in that moment that you sort of felt a little relieved
Yeah.
through that diagnosis. Could you speak a little bit more about what that diagnosis did for you in your recovery process?
For sure. Like I said, I had dealt with whatever, like I knew it was depression and whatever else, like during adolescence. When I became an adult and I moved out, um, before that, even that, when I was moved from Connecticut to Oklahoma, that exacerbated symptoms, I believe. And then when I became an adult and I got to do my own thing, I kind of just did whatever. I was following the crowd. I was trying to find my identity. I still felt heaviness. I felt the darkness and things like that, but I still couldn't put words or names to these feelings. I just, by that point, by the time I was adult, I think I was just kind of used to the darkness. And a lot of people who have dealt with depression understand that, what it's like to just see gray. Like you don't see color, you see the gray. And so I was used to it by then, but yeah, I ended up, when I lost my job, I was living with my ex, and my friends, I couldn't find my friends. It was just a breaking point. So yes, when that got me in the hospital, they did the assessment, and it was a lot of labels, but after I got the names, I was able to better, first of all, you can, when you have, diagnosis, then you can start, treatment. And also just working to recover. I think, working to recover was the goal. I didn't want to live that way. I know it's hard for some people. Some people will sit in it, but for me, I never wanted to live that way. So that ended up helping me a lot as time went along, like in regards to medication, because I wasn't compliant. When I first got diagnosed, medication was not um, a concept that I was thrilled to be a part of, but I didn't want to be miserable. I didn't want to continue to be miserable. And it was actually a sign of hope. Once I started, continuing with, treatment, whether that have been, I want therapy, group therapy, what else did we therapy with psychiatrists. Once I had the team, and we had some type of plan, then I saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and I saw that there was hope.
And so, would you say that that was your support system at that time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think into like family was tough because some family um was supportive and some family was not supportive. So that was tough. So I did have some support. It was just tough trying to navigate it all. So having the professionals that I had, and I've been really super blessed with some amazing professionals into mental health field, but having them around me, being able to kind of um, explain why, like why I was doing why I might have been doing some of the things that I've been doing, how to kind of change my thought processes, and things like that. So that was the best support. And even to this day, to speak to now in Clubhouse, I think that these communities are such an incredible support. Having people who actually know and understand what you're going through is incredibly invaluable. And even to like the family members and the parents that we have that come in our support rooms that get educated on what people with lived experience are talking about, what they're going through, that's also helpful. Seeing effort is helpful, and that's supportive for me.
Absolutely. And I think it goes vice versa too, seeing other people respond to what you're putting out and what you're trying to create, what you're trying to spread, that awareness, that education, and having people tune into that is very encouraging to continue to raise awareness. Thank you so much, Simone, for everything that you do. Would you feel comfortable to touch base a little bit about the stigma associated to taking medication for mental illness? Because I know within my network, there are individuals who are very reluctant to pursue help, and I honestly, I can't even imagine what some of them are going through in real time. But as a friend, as a person that cares about them, it hurts me to see them go through that. And if there is any treatment that can help people in my network, I want to encourage them and tell them that I'm going to be right here by your side, a phone call away, or whatever you need, if we ever get to that point. But often it's about encouraging people in our network to pursue that, or to keep an open mind that, hey, medication is here to help us, right? So how was your experience with moving past that stigma for yourself, within yourself, Simone? What did you do to tell yourself that this is actually helping me, like it's okay?
Sure. I think it's been a journey with the medication. That was like one of the parts that probably took the longest to adjust to. Um, I think especially people who live with bipolar disorder, um, it's tough to be compliant with medication because you feel like you're okay and you want to get off. And then you have people telling you, I've had people tell me that you don't need to be on medication. That's for people who are weak. Heard so many ignorant different remarks. But if that goes back to what I was saying about how serious and how focused I am on the end goal. And the end goal is not living and being miserable, because living with a mental health condition can be extremely miserable. It's extremely annoying. And I want to not only survive, but I also want to thrive living with this disorder. And one of the things that means that for me right now, that means taking medication is necessary. And, somebody had mentioned, that they're their best self. We're our best self when we're staying on our medication and being compliant, regardless to what other people think, because at the end of the day, it's really about you. And I think living with a mental health condition, you really have to be extremely confident within yourself. You have to know yourself. I'm not a weak person. I just, it's a chemical imbalance. And that's something else I had to make peace with, was that, we don't really talk about people with diabetes for taking, their medication, or people with other illnesses. So it's the same thing with people living with different mental health conditions. It's necessary. And it's completely okay. It shouldn't be stigmatized from one illness to the other. And those are just some things that I had to come to terms with, because it was tough being compliant, because number one, it's annoying. And number two, like you said, it's so stigmatized. So it's really, at the end of the day, being confident within yourself and wanting the best for yourself.
I love that. I think it's often wanting the best for yourself. And that brings me to faith, because I know one of the things that you often like to talk about, even in Clubhouse, I've heard you talk about, is the importance of having faith in recovery. Because you share with the audience how faith has helped you continue your journey, and for you to do all the incredible things that you are currently doing. Just for the audience to, if you don't know, Simone is an entrepreneur. She runs her own initiative. And I think that's incredible, given everything that you're doing, Simone. You're like, no matter what you say or do to me, this doesn't define me. And I'm going to make sure that, like you said, the end goal is for you to define yourself, not for this to define you. And I love that. So could you touch base a little bit about the importance of faith in recovery?
For sure. It's interesting. I was talking to somebody else, and a big thing that said, I'm a Christian. I believe in the Christian faith. And a big thing that's said in Christianity in the church, I heard a lot, and not even just directly, if you live with a mental illness, you don't have faith, but it was a lot of indirect comments that somebody who might live with that bipolar or depression or anxiety doesn't have the same amount of faith as somebody who doesn't. And my thought is you can't survive a mental health condition without faith. You can't. And I know people have different religions and believe in different higher powers, but at the end of the day, I believe that it's God who, first of all, who allowed me to continue to living when I wanted to take my own life, because he had purpose for me being on this earth. So that's number one. And number two, like, he's not going to let me just die in the dark. There's more. That's what I tell people, there's more. If you're still in, the darkness, if you're still feeling like you are in like the pit, that means you have to keep going. You have to keep going until you get to the light. There's hope at the end of the tunnel. There's light. So those are some of the things that keep me going, because even when I still do have suicidal ideations from time to time, depending, but I know that I'm not going to take my life. And that's like a different kind of confidence. I know that I'm not going to take my life because I know that there's purpose. And I feel like once you get to that point where you realize that there's purpose in what you've gone through in your pain, that fuels you, that keeps you going, right? Because I can't quit. There's too much that I'm looking forward to. There's too much that is going to happen. So even during the dark time, I know it's going to pass, and I just believe it's going to pass because I know that God is going to keep me and bring me to the promise at the end of the day.
That's so well said, Simone. Thank you so much for sharing that. We have actually a lot of comments rolling in from the audience here from YouTube. So I'm just going to read them out loud very quickly. Love this discussion already. Simone, thank you for being here. You are so, so strong. Thank you for opening up and being so honest about your condition. It gives a lot of hope and strength for others undergoing something similar to take help. Simone, I really admire your strength. More power to you. So much respect for you, Simone. The illness doesn't define you. It's just a part of you.
Right. And I think that's another thing. Like, sometimes we get so attached to these labels. And I don't think there's something that we're supposed to get attached to. I think there's something that's supposed to guide you. When, we talk about DSM-5 and different mental health conditions, like I said, it was names to how I was feeling. It was the beginning of the treatment process. It didn't define me. Never does any illness or mental health condition, anything. None of those outside things define me. And it comes from, a lot of people don't realize, sometimes it's genetic, sometimes it comes from traumas that may trigger different conditions, and we can overcome this, but the beginning is acknowledging the diagnosis.
Simone, if you could go back in time and talk to that girl at a young age who started to experience those symptoms, what would you say to her?
That's tough. I mean, I think I would give her a hug, first of all. Give her a hug. Tell her it gets better. It gets better. You're okay. And, this is all a part of your purpose. It's painful at times, but you're going to get through this and you're going to come out stronger in the end.
That's so nice. Is there any common signs or symptoms that you like to make the audience aware of? Perhaps people who were very young, similar age at that time, who right now are feeling very lost, confused, are not pursuing any help.
It's definitely tough to get help at that age. I think now that we're having mental health conversations more, it's a little bit more comfortable, a little bit less stigmatized, but still teenagers, especially when you're talking about adolescents, they don't necessarily want to go to a therapist or go get help. But it's necessary, especially if you're feeling like you don't want to live anymore. It's time to start opening up. But I think too, the people in the community have a responsibility to notice these symptoms in these kids, and notice that it may not look like you may expect it to look. It might look like somebody acting out. Boys, I think a lot of times they express a lot of anger when they are dealing with, it could be depression, it could be anxiety, but it looks like anger. With both, sometimes they retreat and they go and they spend a lot of time in their room in the darkness and not eating, sleeping habits are off. It's just little things, changes in behavior I think we really need to pay attention to in our adolescence.
I totally agree with you, Simone. I think we don't talk about this enough, or we haven't so far, and I'm just happy that you're bringing this to light. For myself, I can vouch for that. I think that's exactly why Reach Out Together Foundation, even we started to do what we were doing, was to educate our communities about common signs and symptoms. That way we could encourage family members to support individuals the way they needed the support, right? And I don't know how much you know about our organization, but I actually lost my twin brother Tushar about almost 5 years ago. He was not diagnosed, but we were twins, and we're Indians, born in India, but we were raised in Nigeria all our life. Came to Canada to study here for undergraduate degree, graduated, got jobs, and started working here. But I think ever since our older brother had passed away when we were 13 years old, I started to witness so many changes. So many changes. I think it was in that moment I sort of myself internally grew up, because I'm like, my parents aren't okay. My brother's not okay. I'm
Mm,
care of my family. I started to just straighten up. I used to be playing sports all the time, running around, and I just started to become more central, coming back home, making my to-do list. And, I didn't even know these were certain strategies for achieving ongoing success and well-being, using creative art therapy as a means to cope. At the age of 13, no idea. But I actually witnessed my brother and the behavior change, certain signs and symptoms, and I didn't know at that time that these are actual symptoms. And on July 12th of 2016, when my brother passed away, it didn't even come as a shock to me, unfortunately, in that moment when the police officers were at my door to tell me, because he was not okay for so long. And I think when I did the mental health first aid certification with the Mental Health Commission of Canada here, and it was such an incredible course. I recommend everyone to take a basic mental health training, because it's going to open eyes. Education
right,
creates awareness. You cannot forget things that you have learned about. You just
right.
can't. And while I was sitting in class, Simone, I actually looked around the room, and I don't know why I did that, but I actually remember as I was learning things and we were doing case studies, it just became so evident to me that my twin brother was just not well.
Mm,
And all that we could have done was, if we were a bit more aware, a bit knowledgeable, I know we would have done everything in our power to create a safe, supportive environment. Because I think as family, as friends, that's all really we can do.
right,
We're not trained professionals. We're
right,
not trained to respond, to offer support to someone, right? But what we could do is get trained to understand something, and understand how do you better respond to this and get someone to the right help.
right. Absolutely.
That's physical
Absolutely.
first aid too.
Mental health first aid is an amazing course that I think, like you said, everybody should take. I'm sorry about your loss. I'm so sorry about your loss, but I'm glad that you are doing the work that you're doing, because it's so, so important.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. And I just want to let the audience know that ever since then, like I've been relentless in pursuit of my well-being, breaking stigma, getting professional help, pursuing it and being consistent with it was difficult, right? But as a result of that, Cymone Lashae is here on our show to raise awareness and share a little bit about her journey to help encourage other people. I actually published a book called Success Strategies with my mentor, Jack Canfield, the co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul book series.
Wow.
Was an incredible opportunity. I got mentored by him, got the opportunity to co-author a book. Again, none of these would happen if I was not taking care of my well-being, and I want to encourage you all, if you're not feeling okay today, I am sorry to hear. These are really difficult times we're living in. Today more than ever. And as Simone mentioned, say no to rejection.
Right.
Your own ending. She used the word team, and she used the word team in regards of the professional support that she had around her. She had psychologists, she mentioned therapists, she had a psychiatrist. This is her team that's ensuring that Cymone Lashae is doing and feeling okay. And I'm sure, Simone, that that you can always reach out for help if ever you need
Absolutely.
it, right? Thank you so much, so much for being here, for being here, Simone, today. If you could say something to someone who's currently watching, perhaps they're lost, they're confused, they have been maybe diagnosed, but they don't have the motivation, or they lack the strength to actually pursue professional help. They're perhaps a little reluctant in taking on medication as a means of treatment. What's an advice you'd like to leave them with?
It goes back to how serious are you about getting well? How serious are you about getting well? Are you willing to do anything it takes by any means necessary? Are you willing to work through this? It's work. It's work. It's unfortunate, but it's work, and it takes persistence and, like I said, confidence within yourself to make these forward moves. And I want to speak to what you were saying about reaching out. A lot of times we isolate ourselves, and a lot of times, we want to look like the person who's strong, and we can do anything by ourselves. We want to be independent, but it takes a community, like a team. It takes a community, and that's why I find these support groups so important, because we can't do it by ourselves. We just can't do it by ourselves. And it's dangerous to continue to try to do it by ourselves. I think, so many times we promote that in the culture these days. I think it's like big to do everything by yourself, be, big girl or big boy, be macho and take care of things by yourself. But that becomes very isolating, especially when you find yourself in a dark place. So reach out to that therapist, take your medication as it's prescribed. But when if you're uncomfortable with taking medication, communicate with your psychiatrist or your doctor, whoever's prescribing with you. Tell them your thoughts and your feelings. Communication is absolutely key in all of this. Communication and community.
Communication and community. That was so well said. Thank you, Simone. This is our logo at Reach Out Together. Do you know what this stands for?
No, do tell me.
So it's basically two fists put together like this. And this, in American Sign Language, symbolizes together.
Oh.
And here at Reach Out Together, we've used the color orange, because orange in color healing therapy, it brings up feelings of warmth and happiness. And we have the circle around it that symbolizes the world. And our vision here at Reach Out Together is to heal the world together, community by community, conversation by conversation, just like we did today, Simone. I know it was just for 30 minutes, but this is just the start. You have helped us continue uncomfortable conversations on a global scale today. And I know this has made a difference. We have a last comment here. This is so powerful. I'm so proud as a former social worker dealing with mental illness. This is so needed. I'm extremely proud. Thank you. Thank you to whoever said that. Really appreciate it. We'll be back here next week on a Friday to continue this discussion and to continue to raise awareness. If you are still watching, please send us an email at info@reachouttogether.com, and we'll make sure to send you a digital copy of my excerpt from this book. It won the Editor's Choice Award from LA, and I hope that it adds value to you like it has to a lot of our other readers. Thank you, Simone, for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. This has been a great conversation. It's so interesting to see how aligned we are in our initiative. So that's exciting. Thanks again for having me.
Many more